Your job is safe. At least that's what the headlines say. Unemployment is flat, no mass layoffs from AI, nothing to see here. But the company that built the AI that might replace you, Anthropic, just published an economic study. And buried in the reassuring numbers is a warning so specific that it stopped them cold. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist, and I'm building AI Capitalist to arm you with the tools you need to go out and conquer the world. Today, we're going to look at 3 research papers. They've been published in the last 3 weeks, and altogether, they tell a story about AI and jobs that's a little more reassuring, but also, in other ways, a little more terrifying than anything that you've read in the news. So let's go back to 2007. The economy looked fine, unemployment was at around 5%, and the banks were profitable. Every headline said that the boom was just going to keep going and going, but the structure underneath was already cracked. The mortgage exposure, the derivatives, the leverage, it was all in the data, just invisible to the wrong instruments. Within 2 years, unemployment had doubled, and the Great Recession erased trillions in wealth and a decade of career advancement for an entire generation. Here's the question that I want sitting with you for the next few minutes. What if AI is doing the same thing right now? What if the structural damage is already in the data, and we just haven't had the right instrument to read it? Until 3 weeks ago, we didn't, but now we do. So the first paper we're going to look at is from Anthropic, which is the company behind Claude. Their economists built a brand new instrument to measure what AI is actually doing to jobs. And they used real usage data from millions of Claude conversations to get at this data. So their question is AI displacing workers yet? The second one is from MIT and Yale, and these economists went out and asked 1,500 workers across 104 professions, what tasks do they want AI to take over and what do they want to keep? So they want to see what on the worker side, what do the workers want? And part 3, the 3 founding architects of modern artificial intelligence, which includes Yann LeCun, who won the sort of equivalent of the Nobel Prize in computer science, asked, does today's AI have a fundamental limitation that we need to understand? Now, these are going to stack up on top of each other to come out to a really interesting answer. The first paper that we're going to look at is this one that came from Anthropic, and it was published on March 5th of 2026. The authors are Maxim Massenkoff and Peter McCroy. They're economists at Anthropic, and their job is to study how the technology that they're building affects the economy. The question's really simple. Is AI displacing workers? And it's actually a harder question to answer than you would think, because all the previous studies have measured what AI could theoretically do. They asked, could an AI speed this task up? And if the answer was yes, then that job's at risk. But potential is not the same thing as action. Your car can theoretically go 150 miles an hour if you look at the pegs on the dashboard, but that doesn't mean that it actually can. Massenkoff and McCrory did something that no one had done before. Instead of asking what AI could do, they looked at what Claude, which is Anthropic's AI, was actually being used for right now across 2 million real professional conversations. And so the metric that they made up a metric that's called observed exposure. So we need to picture AI's capabilities in 2 buckets. The first bucket is theoretical capability. So this is every task that AI could, in principle, do faster than a human. Previous economists had measured this bucket, and for computer and math jobs, they figured out that about 94% of all the tasks that are done there could theoretically be handled by an AI. And that's what generated all these terrifying headlines. But the second bucket is what Massenkoff and McCrory measured, which is the observed exposure, and that's what the AI is actually being used for right now in professional settings, measured from their usage data. So we're going to figure out why there's a gap here. And looking at figure 2 in the Massenkoff and McCrory paper, this is called a radar chart. It's like a clock face, but with 22 different job categories around the edge instead of numbers. Each category has a spike pointing outward, and the further out that spike goes, the higher the AI exposure for that job. The blue area shows the theoretical maximum. That's here, everything that AI could potentially do. And it fills most of the chart, at least on this sort of STEM side of things. The red area is what Claude is actually being used for right now in professional settings. It's that sort of inner band here. So for computer and math, that's sitting at 33%, but for most other categories, it's under 20%. The authors say about this gap is that as the capabilities advance, adoption spreads, and deployment deepens, the red area is going to grow and grow and cover up the blue. Eventually, the red will fill the page. So this is like the water pressure behind a dam. Only a little bit's making it through right now, but as time passes and as AI is more and more adopted, the dam's going to break. Now, figure 3 from that paper drills down into different occupations. What's interesting about these is that these job mass layoffs, other than maybe computer programmers. So where is the real impact showing up? Showing up in Figure 7. This is the most important chart in the paper because it's surprising. It shows the impact of AI in a place most analysts aren't really looking for it. Not in layoffs, but in hiring. So if you look at the top panel, this is tracking young workers, people who are aged 22 to 25. And it's measuring how often they're starting new jobs. And the blue line shows the people entering low AI exposure jobs. So this red line is showing us programmers, customer service, and financial analysts, the most at risk. They're not getting laid off or showing unemployment, but they're not getting hired either. Because you can see here, this dashed line here is 2024. That's really when AI hit the big time. And you can see that this number of new hires just drops off to nothing for the exposed professions. But the unexposed professions just kind of flatlines and chugs along. So why is there this disconnect between the unemployment rate and this obvious drop-off in hiring? It's because a lot of the people are going back to school, or they're staying in their lower exposure jobs, or they're basically just disappearing from the AI-exposed labor market without triggering one big flashing red of unemployment. So let's put a dollar figure on what this is describing. During the 2008 recession, the Great Recession, the U.S. unemployment rate doubled from 5% to 10% in about 18 months. Now that triggered about $11 trillion in household wealth losses, which is like a decade of wage stagnation. And a whole generation of workers has just never recovered. So the Anthropic paper is calculating that the same sort of doubling in the most AI-exposed occupations from 3% to 6% unemployment would be detectable within that framework that they're observing. This would be sort of like a white-collar Great Recession. And it hasn't happened yet. The unemployment rate for AI-exposed workers is flat. So the second paper we're looking at is published by a team that is including Eric Brynjolfsson, Stanford, who's one of the more respected economists studying technology and work. Instead of measuring what AI is already doing, they're asking what the humans on the other side of the screen want. Think about it. When you go to work, for every task in your job, do you want AI to handle it completely, or do you want it to stay with you in the loop? This team here, they built a database of 844 specific job tasks across 104 occupations. And then for each task, they just talked to people in their fields and they said, hey, how much human involvement do you want versus how much do you want the technology to take care of? And the result is a collision map that shows where human preference and technological capability are going to collide and who's going to win. So they sorted these professions into 4 categories. The green light zone is where workers are happy to have AI take over from them completely and just let the technology is already capable. That's like data entry, formatting reports, pulling records, and all the workers that, just take that off my plate. I don't want it. These are the boring tasks. No conflict here. The R&D opportunity zone, which is shown yellow here, they want some tasks automated, but the technology isn't there yet. This is where AI investment is going. The low priority zone is where people, neither workers nor the companies really care. And then there's the red zone. This is the collision course. These are tasks where workers said, I want to keep a human in the loop. Judgment calls, client relationships, creative decisions, the things that make work meaningful. But the AI experts assessed that those same tasks are things that technology can already handle. So here's the finding from this paper that should restructure how every business owner and professional thinks about this. The tasks that are disappearing first are not the prestigious ones. They're the unglamorous entry-level cognitive tasks, drafting the first memo, running the first analysis, the tasks that every junior person in every profession hates to do, and the companies are most economically motivated to just automate away. But those tasks aren't just boring work, they're like apprenticeship. And they're how a legal associate becomes a partner or how a junior engineer becomes a senior engineer. The Brynjolfsson team's data shows that AI is absorbing the bottom of the career ladder faster than new rungs are being built at the top. We are basically hollowing out the experience pipeline for the next generation. But what we're going to see next is that the AI that's causing all of this, the AI that's slowing young people from getting hired and that's taking up all of the new entry-level tasks and that's threatening entire career pipelines, doesn't actually know how to learn. 3 of its own architects published a paper that said so. The third paper is this one. It was published on March 16th, 2026, just 9 days ago from this recording. The title alone is Why AI Systems Don't Learn and What to Do About It. So who wrote this? Well, let's introduce the 3 authors. Emmanuel Dupont is cognitive scientist at the School for Advanced Studies in Social Sciences in Paris. And he studies how human intelligence develops. Jitendra Malik is a computer scientist at UC Berkeley, and he's a Turing Award winner, which is like the Nobel Prize of Computer Science. And Yann LeCun is the chief AI scientist at Meta, and he also won the Turing Award. And what they're all saying is that AI that's threatening your job right now is frozen. It can't learn, it can't adapt. It is, in their words, stuck in an architecture that prevents autonomous learning. And they wrote a roadmap for what comes next. What does it mean to say that AI doesn't learn? Let's give you an analogy that makes it concrete. Imagine a photocopier that's so sophisticated it can read every book in the Library of Congress, and it can reproduce any passage or section from any book. It can combine chapters from different books, and it can summarize whole volumes, but it can't walk into the library and pick up a new book. It can't notice something it's curious about. It can't learn what happened yesterday. Once it was built, its knowledge was sealed. That is every AI model that you're using right now. They're all trained on data up to a certain point, and then they're deployed, and then they stop learning. The world changes, if a new disease emerges, if markets shift, your industry might even invent a new workflow, but the model doesn't know about it. It can't adapt, and it requires a team of engineers to retrain it from scratch. Think about every time you start a new conversation with a chatbot, it's like it doesn't know you. Now, figure 1 from the LeCun problem puts this problem and the proposed solution side by side. If you go to the left side first, this is standard machine learning. Every AI model that you use today is made in a sort of metaphorical factory assembly line. On the left side, you have the research engineers who are collecting and cleaning data, and then data scientists designing the training process. The model trains, the model deploys, and then nothing. The machine stops learning. On the right side is what the authors are proposing. They call it autonomous learning. The agent doesn't need a team of engineers. It has 3 internal systems. It can learn from observation in System A. It's like an infant absorbing patterns from the environment without anyone explicitly teaching it. System B, it can learn from action, like a child learning to walk through trial and error without instruction. And then System M, the meta controller, which decides which mode to use depending on the situation. LeCun's paper isn't pessimistic, it's just a roadmap. He's not saying that AI is broken. He's saying that here's what we need to build next, and here's the architecture that we can use to do it. But for everyone outside the lab, and for every business owner and every knowledge worker, the implication is unavoidable. The AI that's already slowing entry-level hiring and that's already absorbing the career on-ramp is like a frozen library. When the toddler version arrives, the AI that can observe, act, and adapt, the economic disruption that we're measuring right now is going to look like a dress rehearsal. So whatever disruption you're seeing today is from the weakest possible version of this technology, and it's only going to get stronger. So what's your take? Is this just the same story that we've told ourselves every time there's a technological transition? It's always disruptive, and then it gets followed by adaptation, and then like a new abundance, and then the jobs just adjust? Or is this time genuinely different because for the first time in history, the machine is competing with the things that always made us humans irreplaceable, the ability to think, to adapt, and to learn? What happens when the AI system isn't just threatening to replace your job, but it's actually pursuing its own goals by deceiving the humans that are overseeing it? When Anthropic, the same company that published today's paper number 1, trained a model the same way that they trained Claude, and then they discovered that it had, in their own words, become evil? I covered that in a story in full detail in a previous episode on this channel. So if today's video made you think, that one's going to make your head spin. That one's called Evil Claude.